success, Daryl Belleville, the offensive coordinator there, and Pete Carroll, they're like, you know what? This is working in Washington.
Great point.
And Russell can easily handle it. And so they put a package in, and it worked for him big time. And that's, I think, when you saw them really take off.
You began working at the NFL Network in 2006. And I read that football is your first love, so this clearly was a dream come true for you. Can you talk a little bit about getting to work with people who have accomplished so much in the game that you love? Guys like Deion, Michael Irvin, Kurt Warner. I mean, the list goes on. What has this ride been like for you working with these guys?
No, it's been great. It's been fantastic, and you get a little I don't know, spoiled because there's so much knowledge that you can learn from these guys about football. Just being around them, that they watch the game in a much different way than you watch the game, and so it's fun to be around them and talk to them about the game and try to view it through their eyes and what they see, because they see stuff you don't even think about seeing. So that's been a lot of fun. And the thing that I've always tried to do, I'm maybe a bit old school, where to me I don't think it really should be about me as a host, but it should be about the event, the sport, and then also what I can get out of the guys who are on the set with me to push them to really make sure that they make points that they want to make in terms of analyzing the game, and then they convey that knowledge to the audience. And to me, that's how I view my job. Or if they have something that they're going to say that's kind of off the beaten path, to push them to make sure that they explain it, to challenge them, so that it gets out, and it gets out properly. And so, that's changing a little bit in our business, because it's becoming more of, I think, a slant towards entertainment, which is all good, because there's different ways to do it. But I just feel so lucky that I get to be around these guys and learn from them about how they see the game. And I want to make sure that I share it, So, and to me, that's just kind of how I've always viewed my job as a host, is to push and to drive and to get the information out. So they're a good group. I know it'll sound weird, but there aren't, the egos are pretty much in check, even though you're talking about the tremendous players. It's a young group, and these guys are fresh. They just left the game, so they're up to speed on everything that's happening right now in the game. They have relationships with players, right now. So they're not out of touch. They're not out of date. It's all at their fingertips. So it's definitely a fun ride.
Can you take me through a typical day for you, personally preparing for NFL Game Day Final on that Sunday? What is the process like, from when you wake up to showtime?
Well, I mean, when I was doing that show, I would get to work at about 9 on Sundays, and the games, and the NFL Network is on the West Coast, so it's in LA.
Right.
So the early games start at 10. So, and basically, watch all the games. They're on our set over on what we call Stage 1. It's where NFL Total Access is. There are these 3 big jumbo screens, and what the guys do for us is they block them all off into quadrants, and we watch all the games all at once. And most of the guys sit on the stage and watch the games. There's another area where they'll just have all the games on, 24-inch or 26-inch monitors across the board, and you just try to keep up with all the games because. Obviously you're going to be talking about all of them, so you can't catch everything, but you want to make sure that you have your eyes on as much as you can. So, and then at some point, like after the early games, probably about midway through the late afternoon games, all the highlights will be ready from the early games. So then I'll go over, go into each edit bay and watch each highlight that's been cut, and then we'll talk about it, we'll review, and if there are things that I think should be in there that aren't in there, they'll put them in. If there are things that I think don't need to be there, we'll take them out.
Cool.
So we'll go through that. We'll do the same process after the late games, and then we meet at halftime of the Sunday night game, the night game.
Mm-hmm.
We go over the show and we talk about all the points that we want to discuss, and it's a lot to cram into 90 minutes. But then we go out there and we do the show. So it's a long, exhausting day, but it's also a very fun day. And it's important too, because you're doing highlights of all the games, to make sure, okay, if you're going to speak, let's try to be concise, and let's not let it get away from you, and make sure you make the point you want to make. And that's always the toughest challenge, because you get four guys together talking football, conversation can go anywhere. So it's hard to keep the train on the tracks. But that's my job. That's the challenge there. Keep them on point and make sure they're getting out what they need to get out.
Interesting. Now, got to ask you about the Super Bowl real quick. What do you think about the two Harbaugh brothers actually coaching against one another here? I mean, what are the chances of this actually happening? It's incredible.
I think it's great. Man, that's one of the things I think about sports is it's the greatest reality TV going. I mean, you couldn't, if you wrote this into a Hollywood script, it would be kind of corny and cheesy, and people would buy it. And look, they're there for a reason. I mean, they're two of the best coaches in the NFL right now, hands down. The job that John Harbaugh has done in Baltimore, I mean, going to the postseason every year. He's already won 8 playoff games in 5 seasons. It's pretty remarkable. And Jim's done a tremendous job. And look, Jim cut his teeth. I mean, he coached in the college ranks at 2 different stops. He's done some stuff in the National Football League as a coach, and obviously his pedigree as a player. And he has proven, I think, over the last 6 to 10 years, he's a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
I mean, he can coach. He almost, and a lot of people don't know this, but he almost was able to get RG3 and Andrew Luck together at Stanford. He tried to recruit them. He recruited them both. He tried to sell RG3 on kind of being change of pace quarterback for him. And obviously RG3 had different designs, but it just shows you this guy was spot. Like he gets it. He was spot on, and you got to give him a lot of credit for the move to Colin Kaepernick.
Yep.
I feel terrible for Alex Smith. I think it's going to be next week is going to be a very long week for him.
Yeah.
But from a football perspective, it works. And obviously he sees a kid in practice. He drafted a kid, so he knew something we all didn't know. And so they're both great coaches, and they come from coaching pedigree with their father. So I think it's a tremendous story, and I know they're tired of it. They don't want to deal with it. But one of the things that's going to be cool is that there's always a coaches news conference at the Super Bowl, and we hear from each coach. They're going to do it together, which I think is very appropriate next Friday.
Now, Ravens 49ers. What are some key matchups that you will be looking for in the Super Bowl?
Well, I think the 49ers are red hot with this read option, and I think they're going to try to ride it out. So, and I think it's going to be a challenge for the Ravens because they haven't seen it. They saw RG3 earlier in the year, and they didn't do a particularly great job against him there. But they knocked out Peyton Manning, and yes, they knocked out Tom Brady. But those are very different quarterbacks than Colin Kaepernick. So I think it's going to be, and that defense has been on the field a lot. They get the extra week here, they get the extra week off, but that defense has been on the field about, I think I saw 250 or 260 plays.
Wow.
In 3 games. So that's going to be a matchup to watch. But also, I think the Ravens. There's a reason why the Ravens have had the success they've had against Tom Brady and the Patriots, because they do a great job confusing and disguising what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be a challenge for Colin on the other side, because they're not going to tip their hand at what they're doing. And for the first time all year, since the playoffs started, you're seeing Ed Reed, Haloti Ngata, Ray Lewis, and Terrell Suggs all play together.
Yeah.
That quartet had not been on the field together because of injury until the postseason.